Fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came too. Like you said when you know you got moves. You spit game and you know you spit.
Hello and welcome to the Fast Lane Collective. I am your host Tangela and I'm joined by Brianna and Yasmin, and this is our first F1 Academy episode of the season. I'm so excited. Girls, how are you feeling? Brianna, I'll start with you.
Oh my God, I'm so excited that we're doing this, honestly. I know we tried and dabbled in F1 last season when we were with ATP, but I am so glad to give F1 Academy its moment. I think we're all huge supporters of females in the sport. Obviously, we're all females. We're all in this sport, not racing, but involved in it in different ways. So it's just really, really great. And I'm excited to be doing it with the two of you, which is even better.
And Yasmin?
I am very hyped, very hyped. Again, we've got more drivers on the grid this season, and we're gonna have just so much talent, and I'm just so excited to see people from last season come back, and also people that I have never heard of or seen with their talent of racing. So I'm just happy to really just dive in and let's get talking about F1 Academy. I'm hyped.
I am also feeling the same. I'm very excited about the start of the season in a couple of weeks' time. As you said, we have got 6 new rookies starting, and some of these names are names I've never heard of either, and I thoroughly research women in this sport, so I'm very excited to see new names on the grid and who hopefully are going to add some drama to this season and bring some competition. But there's been some other news outside of just having 6 new rookies. We have also had some things been mentioned which I think makes this very interesting. And one of those things is that they're bringing back the reverse grid for the first race of each weekend. And Brianna, I wanted to know your thoughts. Do you think that this would have dramatically have changed last season if we had had reverse grid for at least one race every weekend?
Yes. I do think maybe not a dramatic change, but it definitely would have affected the standings. I think in some different ways, maybe more toward the beginning of the season, but I think they're just trying to make F1 Academy as compatible as they can with the other racing series, keeping kind of the status quo. Obviously, we see reverse grid in F2. So I think they're just trying to follow suit and not make this F1 Academy series so different from the other series that we see out there. But yeah, I think it probably would have changed. Do I think it would have changed who won the whole season? No, I don't. But I think it would have given some girls who were more toward the back of the grid last year or had some bad luck, maybe give them some more opportunities for some points.
And Yasmin, what are your thoughts on reverse grid as a concept in general? We've obviously seen it in F3 and F2. Do you think that it is a good thing? Because I know some people love it, some people hate it. What are your thoughts?
I really like it. I think it gives those people who are usually at the back of the grid, they get that opportunity to kind of shake it up. And like you were saying, Brianna, maybe just someone who's had a bad luck that race weekend. I don't think it would work for something like Formula One. Again, that has been something that's been spoken about within the paddock. But I think for like F2, F3 and F1 Academy, I think it just really puts on a display of their talent and kind of lets them develop those skills of just having your entire race weekend kind of like just up on its head. And I really like it. And I know that it can be a bit of a controversial opinion. Daniela, do you also think that it's a good thing or a bad thing? Because it is really, people either hate it or love it. There's not really an in-between.
I personally love it. I think because you really get to see drivers making their way up the field. If someone starts on pole, most of the time, or a lot of the time, they can kind of keep that momentum up from the moment they get off the line. But if they get pole in qualifying and then start in 8th, that's really going to change the game because they then need to make up positions. And it really proves to them as a driver, like, how they can not only just go out and win races, but how are they going to overtake and get up the field? And I think that was something that was missing from W Series. Jamie Chadwick would get pole in qualifying, start on pole, and just be miles ahead of the field. I think if they had incorporated reverse grid, that would have changed things up dramatically. I think that she would have really had to have fought for herself, which is why when she went over to Indy Next, it kind of proved to everyone that not only could she win races, but she can really make her way up through a field, which I think is ultimately a fundamental skill to being a driver. You need to be able to overtake. And I think this is a great way to showcase that. So I'm excited to see what happens, because we've obviously got some big names returning this season. And it'd be interesting to see if, for example, if Dorian Pan starts on pole in the first race of the season, what's she going to do when she's down in 8th starting on the grid? I think it's going to be very interesting, especially as it will happen in the first race out of the two. Brianna, do you have any more thoughts?
Yeah, just like what you two just said, just kind of like a little like reminder in my head, like, oh yeah, like the whole point of these series, F2, F3, F1 Academy, is to boost these drivers' development. And the reverse grid, like you said, Daniela, you really get to see people move their way up the grid and develop that skill. And I think that's another reason why reverse grid is so great in these development series, is because they're able to hone these skills, put themselves in situations that they might not often, especially if they're finding themselves more toward the front of the grid more often than not. So I think it is important to have. And like you said, people love it or hate it, but when you look at it purely from a development standpoint, it makes so much sense.
I completely agree. I think it really, as I said, kind of showcases the driver's talent in multiple ways rather than just one. Some more news that we have is that there is 3 new circuits on the calendar for F1 Academy. So if you don't know, with F1 Academy, they follow round F1, just like F2 and F3 do. But this year, they're also going to Shanghai, Montreal, and Las Vegas. What are your thoughts on these 3 tracks as like on the calendar? And is there a track that you kind of wish that they would go to that they are yet to be at?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to say a track that I wish that they would go to would be Monaco. I think it's just an iconic track. It's a great track to hone your skills when it comes to racing on such narrow roadways, streetways, trackways, whatever you want to call it. There is no track like Monaco, and I think it'd be really interesting to see the girls go around that track. And who doesn't? Come on, if you ask all these girls, they'd probably be like, yeah, if there's one track I could drive, it would be Monaco, because it's iconic for any motorsports driver ever. So I would have to say Monaco, but I am excited that they're going to Vegas. That I think will be very cool and very fun for them.
I think for me it would be Spa. Like I think that would be like an iconic kind of like track to see them race on. And like I hate the Miami track. Can I just be honest? So I wish
Tell
they
us
had
how
like
you really feel.
sorry. I'm going to just tell you how it is. I kind of wish that we like swapped out the Miami track for like Spa or Monaco, like something iconic, where they kind of get to be on that pedestal of motorsport, especially on like a F1 race weekend, because again they will be traveling along with Formula One and kind of showcasing their talent to maybe F1 fans who haven't delved in the F1 Academy. But one track that I'm really excited to see them race on, that they are racing on this season, is Singapore. That's going to be tough. So I'm looking forward to that one the most out of the season. I know that wasn't the question, but I'm just going to pop that in there.
Yes, I agree with both of you. I think that Monaco would be very iconic, especially with it kind of having such a rich history in motorsport, but also very much putting its place in favour of men. Drive to Survive has recently come out, and they kind of showcased an episode on Monaco with Charles Leclerc winning Monaco. And some of the images that they used within that really put women in like a derogatory like perspective. And I really made me feel really uncomfortable. And I was thinking, okay, how could we change that? And I think one way that we could do that is having F1 Academy race there. And W Series never raced there. So it'd be interesting to see how they manage Monaco. Monaco is one of my favourite races for F2 and F3 because it really brings a lot more drama than it does in F1. I find it very interesting. There's usually like a lot happens in those races, so I think that it'd be the same case for F1 Academy. And I have heard from some of the drivers, yes, that Singapore is some of their favorite. Like most of the drivers say it's their favorite race in F1 Academy. I've heard. So I think they agree with you, and I think they're all looking forward to that one. There's one clear answer for me, and you're all going to say I'm biased, and I know that I am, but I want them to go to Silverstone. It's my home race.
Before you even said it, I was like, she's going to say Silverstone.
I just can't help it. I want to see F1 Academy in the flesh. It is my home race. I am from the same town as Silverstone, and I want to be able to support my girls at my home race. But unfortunately, for the third time running, they are not going to be at Silverstone, so it's sad for me. But it is looking like an exciting season ahead. We have also had an announcement that we are going to have a 6th team on the grid. With high tech coming in, that means we're going to have extra drivers. I want to go to you, Yaz, first. What do you think is going to be kind of like the biggest takeaway from adding in a 6th team and adding in more drivers so that it goes from 15 to 18 this year?
I think we're really going to see a lot of, how do I put it? I think we're going to see a lot more like incidents because, again, so many cars on track. It's just going to be a lot of like you not being able to like breathe through those corners. Like I feel it when I watch any type of motorsport, like as soon as they get off the line and seeing them just kind of huddled together, I think with extra cars on track, my anxiety is going to be heightened. But I think it's going to bring also a lot more determination from these women and a lot of like, okay, we've more people on the grid, that takes more eyes away from others. So I think there's just going to be a lot of pushing and I'm really excited. Like I wish we could add like 7 more teams. I just love seeing the competition and yeah, I think it's just going to bring more heightened emotions and heightened moments and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I think the more competition, the better. Let's bring on more seats. Let's get more of these talented women in cars. The more spaces we have, the more chances we have for women to showcase their skills and their talents. And finally happy to see high tech join everybody else. About time. With Prima and obviously our Grand Prix, obviously these teams are involved in F3, F2. So I'm happy to see them finally making that commitment almost and stepping in. But yeah, I'm just excited for more chances for more women to have a chance to have a seat and drive. And it just goes to show that F1 Academy it's growing. It's successful. If it wasn't, there wouldn't be a whole nother team joining. So it's all positive things, I think, for the drivers, for the competition, for the honing in our skills, to also just the success that F1 Academy is really just blossoming into. All good things.
I completely agree. I think that a lot of eyes are going to be on F1 Academy this season, mostly because W Series only lasted for 3 seasons, and I think people are going to be thinking, oh, is this going to be the same case for F1 Academy? Is it going to crack? However, I think adding in this 6th team is really going to defy that. It has a lot of backing from some really big sponsors, Charlotte Tilbury. We also have every F1 team sponsoring a driver, which has been one of the most incredible things to witness in the world of motorsport in the last few years. I think it has massively changed the game and is a big motivation to get women into this sport. So I am excited to see how that goes ahead. And as both of you have said, I think it's a good thing that we're going to have this 6th team and we're going to have more drivers. More drivers leads to more competition. So I'm going to take that. But we have just had testing for F1 Academy. Dorian Han, as I feel like maybe was expected, came out on top. What are your thoughts, Bren? I know that you are a Dorian Han fan. That rhymed. That was unintentional.
Dorian Pan fan. That's me. Yeah. Big fan of hers. I had been following her career before F1 Academy began. Her racing with the Iron Dames, which is just, if you don't know who that is, that team, go look it up. They're freaking rock stars, and they themselves are changing the game for women in motorsports, not just in single-seater, but and others as well. So yeah, I think last year she started off so strong and then never kind of came back, and we never really saw that same strength from her, which is very surprising to me. Because I remember the beginning of season, everyone was like, oh, she's about to blow everybody out of the water. And I think I even said in our episode, like, her experience is a lot more than maybe a lot of these girls on the grid now. And that's not because it's just because they haven't had the opportunities. There are not that many out there, as we all know, for women. So I'm hoping Dorianne will kind of just be able to be more consistent this year in her performances in F1 Academy. But I am happy to see that she is back. And I think she definitely will be a real challenge. And a real contender. I'm going to call it right now and say she's top 3 at least when it comes to driver standings for sure.
Yes, I'm just going to throw this to you. With F1 Academy, you can only be in it for 2 years and then you're out. Do you think that's going to put a lot of pressure on Dorianne heading into this being her second season in F1 Academy, and that she kind of needs to prove herself because this is her last chance to?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, to have that hanging over your head for the entire season, like, oh, I wouldn't want to feel that pressure. But I think with that amount of pressure, it could maybe make her make silly mistakes or push herself too far. Which I really don't want to see. But I think with so much pressure, and for women in this sport, it's like, where do we go next? Who's gonna put that extra investment in us? I think that as well. It's just we have that extra layer of, okay, well, where am I gonna go? Am I gonna get that investment? So it's gonna just be a lot of pressure for her, and I really hope that she does have an amazing last season. I don't think anybody wants to see her fail, or any of these women fail, for any matter. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough season for her.
So, Brianna, you've kind of mentioned that you think Dorianne's going to be in the top 3. Who do you think will be joining her?
Oh, that's a tough question because we have so many rookies coming in this year. Just like F1, it's just the year of the rookie this year. I mean, I love it, don't get me wrong, but it usually spells chaos in very large capital letters. This might be a little bit hopeful thinking, but I'm really, really hoping to see Leah Block toward the top. She did not have a great season last year. I think I at least had a higher expectation of her, and she kind of didn't meet the expectation. And I know that might be a little bit because of her lineage, her dad, like that kind of thing. But I really hope she succeeds this year and at least is in that top 3. She's a great driver. She's seen success as well in other racing series. As we know, that doesn't always translate to on track here. But I think she can do it. I think she just needs a little bit more confidence in herself that she can. So I would probably say Leah Block, and then Maya Wu. Woog, sorry, her name. I love her, but I can never pronounce her name, so please don't come for me. Crazy talented, and I think she really, really can take the fight to Dorianne if there's anybody who's just as determined as anybody else. I think she could put up a decent fight as well. I'm just looking here as well at the on my screen. I have all the girls up just so I can remember. But yeah, I think if there's somebody else that we need to be watching out for sure, it's also going to be Chloe Chambers. She's fast. We've seen it. She has the speed. Sometimes she's not making the best decisions when it comes to those high pressure situations, but I think she should be also one that could be in the top 3 and to look out for this year. So that's what I got. Yes?
For me, it would definitely be Chloe Chambers. Love that girl, and I'm with you on the high pressure situations. But this is what F1 Academy is all about. Make those mistakes, but then learn from them next week. Well, it won't be next week, but when they have a next race. But another person that I'm really looking forward to hopefully be in the top 3 and to really have a successful season is Alicia Palmowski. I have followed her career for quite a long time, and I actually remember when there was a point in her career where she didn't have any funding and she didn't know where she was going to go. I even remember like GoFundMe's and things popping about, and she is such a sweet lovely girl, and I know that has nothing to do with her talent actually on the track, but she really worked hard and got the funding. She's in F1 Academy, and she's, you know, supported by Red Bull, and it's just so amazing that, like, to see how she went from, oh, I'm not going to have a career in the sport anymore, to now being in the F1 Academy and being with Red Bull. So I really hope that she has a successful season, and I'm wishing her all the best. And yeah, I'll be excited to see someone I've seen for so long on my screen actually make it to F1 Academy. So exciting.
I completely agree with both of you. I think Chloe Chambers was on my list. I think she really proved herself last season. She had quite a few hiccups, and then there'd be some races that she'd kind of completely knock it out the park. She won a race last season, and I think that really kind of brought her name up there. It was all about Dorian and Maya, and obviously Abby Pulling, who went to take on the championship, but Chloe was right behind them, really pushing it all the way. And I think that we really need to be looking out for her this season. I think, Yaz, you're also right about Alicia. I think she is one incredible driver, but also massively underrated. She also is such a lovely human being. I've been very fortunate enough to have met her a couple of times, and she knows exactly what she wants. She knows exactly what to say. And I think that when she gets in that car, she's so level-headed that nothing will get in her way. So I'm very excited to see what she can do this season. And I think there are some other rookies as well. Some of them were wildcard entries last year. Nina Gabeman, I think, has got a lot of potential. She definitely proved herself with her wildcard entry last year. And the same goes for Ella Lloyd. I think another really fantastic female driver that I think has a lot to give, and I'm excited to see like what she can do. It's going to be a very exciting season coming, and I definitely cannot wait. I really wish it was next week. Unfortunately, we still got one more week to go. They're going to be racing in China, and I think it is going to be one of the best starts to the season. I won't lie. I'm very excited. But moving on to some other kind of female in motorsport news, I guess. I wanted to kind of bring this up because we had just talked about Alicia, and it sparks my brain. They are going to have a rookie test in September for F1 Academy, because as you know, they can only be in F1 Academy for 2 seasons and then they're out. So obviously they need to start looking elsewhere for talent, and they've just announced they're going to have a rookie test just for women, which was it's not the first time that we've seen this, because this has also happened in the world of Formula E. Back in November, they had an all-women's test with some of the best female drivers out there. It was incredible. I got to go in person, and honestly, when I say it was the best day of my life, I genuinely don't believe anything will top it. I met Jamie Chadwick and I died. It was amazing. I was very fortunate enough to go with work, and that was where I met Alicia. And yeah, it was just an incredible thing to see. And they've also announced they're going to do a second one. So do you think, Brianna, that this kind of Formula E drive has kind of made F1 Academy oh, that's quite a good idea, we should give that a try? Obviously, Susie Wolff is such a passionate woman when it comes to getting other females in this sport. Do you think that she took this one and thought, you know what, we need to do our own spin on this? We need to see what talent is out there, especially those girls that are coming up from karting.
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, we're entering the 3rd season of F1 Academy right now, and it is a little different when it comes to finding specifically female drivers. For the male drivers, like if you look at like the trajectory from, you know, starting in karting to Formula One, it is very easy. You have this whole system that you can actually watch drivers from some of these kids from when they're like 5 years, 6 years old up until they hit Formula One, where with women, it's not so much like that, just because the opportunities haven't been there, or some women are even scared to start to get into karting because they're a little bit intimidated by all the boys. I mean, just imagine being like 6 and 7 years old and standing there and being the only girl. Like when you're that young and you look around, you go, why are there no more girls? Like that's weird. And it can, so because of that, we're not seeing many women come up that normal trajectory. So we're having to look elsewhere to find our talent. And I think this is just another kudos to Susie. She's recognizing this and being like, okay, third season, like we've kind of hit all the top players that we've known of, women, female driver wise, that have been out there and with the qualifications we're looking for to enter F1. So I think it's smart of her to kind of start doing these things to build up that pool of women to pull from. I think Susie's also trying to build a framework for women who do want to get into motorsports and driving. She's starting to build out that trajectory, just like the boys have. And I think doing this kind of tryouts or, you know, testing kind of thing is just part of it in the beginnings of it. So hopefully we'll see that grow. But yeah, I think it's a smart move. It makes sense. We need to start offering more opportunities for women who want to come try out and might not have the money to be as noticed as some of these women, or the names or the experience. So I think it's a smart move, honestly. And I look forward to it. I hope we get to at least like see highlights from it, which would be really, really cool.
I think a lot of the time also female talent gets like lost in the system sometimes with like you said, like maybe they don't have the money, or you just don't get that like publicity that other people get. And with having these tryouts, or whatever you want to call it, it really does give that chance to be like, oh, okay, I can go to this and hopefully get some recognition, and that could really just kickstart someone's career instead of having to go through, well, you know, nobody's going to see me at this in wherever in the world karting, and no one's going to give me that opportunity. So I think this is like a really, really, really key thing that we need to keep doing, is these tryouts, so we don't have opportunities of extremely talented female drivers missed, because there's so many male drivers out there that have plenty of chances, like you said, like the system that is basically like built for them. But when it comes to female drivers, there really isn't anything there for them. So I think it's just the perfect extra stepping stone to help get more talent out there and in the sport.
Yeah, and I think like you said, Yasmin, they have this framework that's like built for them. But I think also as women, we need to let women know that it's okay to be here. Like you can be here. You might be the only woman here, but that's okay. Like building up this confidence within these girls and letting them know, like, just because you're outnumbered here by the boys doesn't mean you can't go beat them out there. And I know obviously it is tough sometimes, especially when you're kids. Like kids are mean. Or they just have no filter. They just say what's ever in their head. So I know you might face some difficulties being the only girl, but I think also sending the message of like, you belong here. It's okay, so that we don't have the problem of like having to set up a separate situation for girls. Like, let's start all these kids at the same space at the same time, and have this be a welcoming, nurturing, and like, but also healthy competitive space as well. So that just popped in my head just hearing you really, you know, talk about that. And I hope F1 Academy is doing that. I think it is. Little girls are seeing these girls out there and they're going, I want to do that. And that's getting them into karting and so on. So yeah, all interesting things to talk about within the framework of how these females find themselves in the motorsporting world.
Absolutely. If we like look over the last few years, we had maybe 10 years ago a handful of female drivers that girls could look up to. Now we have hundreds of female drivers that these girls can look up to. There are so many more role models that we didn't have before, and that is because of W Series and F1 Academy. Without them, we wouldn't have had a platform to have seen these girls, and that has changed. And having sponsors like Charlotte Tilbury come in and show girls that, you know, you can be a racing driver and wear makeup, and that's completely fine and is brilliant. And I think that, you know, we're now kind of seeing a little bit more participation from girls at a younger age. When I was in Madrid for preseason testing for Formula E at the women's test, the conversation was about the foundation and how we needed to make karting more accessible for women so that young girls are going to get into karting. And then the more we get them starting off in karting, then it's only going to increase the pool as it comes up to the feeder series. And like some of the Formula E drivers said in Madrid, they want to see a female driver in Formula E. They want to have a female driver to go up against them. But the talent pool is still quite small in comparison. So these initiatives are great, but some initiatives that I also think are really like groundbreaking are all female karting championships as well. So F1 Academy have their own. It's where they get a lot of their kind of their drivers starting to come from. I feel like I've noticed that this year. They have these championships and they're actually taking people out of them who have proven themselves and letting them come into F1 Academy, which is the whole point, which is why I'm so glad F1's doing the same with F2, because that's what it should have been all along. But that's a whole separate story. But there's also the Jamie Chadwick series that has been absolutely groundbreaking in its first season. It's now heading into its second season. It improved female participation by 1,900%, which is the most... It's insane, isn't it?
1,900%?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Also, go Jamie Chadwick. You go.
Love her.
I love that. That's so amazing.
It's the biggest all-female UK championship for karting, and it has completely changed the game. And not only that, but Jamie has lowered the age range to 8+ rather than 12+ for this year, and I think it's going to really showcase the talent that's out there. Jamie opens it up for everyone. You can have never stepped foot in a kart before and you can give it a go, which I think is what is needed, rather than it just being just for women or girls who have driven before. It's giving girls who may have never thought they could do this, get in that car and be like, oh, actually, I'm quite good at this. And be surrounded by other women and girls who are also so supportive. Jamie Chadwick has been supportive of her own championship. She's gone to a couple of the rounds last year. And I think that really shows the girls, okay, like, we have people on our side. And that is what we need more of. We are slowly getting there. Like, we've had a lot more role models, as I've said. But not only just in driving, but in commentating, in presenting, in engineers. This year, we're going to have our first F1 race engineer who's a woman, and I think that again is really going to increase participation of women getting into engineering and into STEM subjects, which has kind of been in the upward world. Like, it's been definitely progressing, but we've never seen this before, and I think it's just exactly what is needed. And I feel very honoured that we get to kind of be in this space whilst that is happening. And it's transforming what it means to be a woman in this sport. And if you ever feel like you don't belong, then I advise you to go and listen to Laura Winter's speech from last year's International Women's Day, where she spoke about like what it means to be a woman in the sport and how we are here to stay. And it really resonated with me. And I think about it almost every day as someone who works in motorsport and sometimes has doubts about whether or not I can do this. We are here to stay, and that's what the whole point of F1 Academy is. Eventually, there won't be a need for F1 Academy because we will be going back to having mixed genders racing against each other, and that's going to hopefully lead one day to a female F1 racing driver or in a world championship. So that's kind of, I think, the main bulk of what's been going on in F1 Academy. So I want to kind of cast it over to what is our F1 Academy champion up to this season? Girls, do you know what Abby Pulling is doing this year?
I know out of everyone you're going to know this. I'm just going to leave it to you. I'm just going to leave it to you, Daniela.
I'm not sure. You know, it's interesting. Like, I was just looking at the lineup for this year because confession, Formula One's been consuming my life a little bit. So I haven't been able to dive so deep into F1 Academy. And also they start a little bit later than F1. But all the new names here and just seeing some people that aren't here this year that had their first season last year. And I don't know why I thought Abby was going to be in the lineup, but I was like looking and I was like, where's Abby Pulling? Abby Pulling? Abby Pulling? Wait, she's not here. And then I was like, oh, right. I don't know what she's up to, but please tell us, because this is the whole reason of F1 Academy, is so these girls don't get stuck in F1 Academy, that they move on to other greater and better things to launch their career. So yeah, if anybody knows, it's Daniela. What's Abby Pulling up to these days?
Abby Pulling is going to be racing in GB3 this year, which is really exciting because it's more of a Formula 3 spec style car rather than Formula 4. So it's really going to push her, show what she can do in a car that is similar to Formula 3. And not only do they just race in the UK, as the name would suggest, GB, they also are kind of branching out more. They did, I think they might have done this last year. They might have gone to Zandvoort, I'm not sure, or if this might be the first time, but they are branching out into Europe, which I think is really great for the sport. And I'm excited to see what she can do. She proved herself in F1 Academy. She became the first woman to win in British F4, so she has a lot going behind her. But I'm really glad to see that she is progressing and that Rodin Motorsport are backing her. They did announce before she won the championship that whoever won the championship would get a fully funded seat in GB3, and it ended up being Abby, their own driver, who then went on to go and take that. We need to see more things like this, because if you don't know what you're going to get at the end of this, then you're kind of like, what's the point in doing this? And they announced it really late. They announced it in November, and the championship ended in December. And Abby knew that she needed to get some sort of funding to be able to progress in her career. And she said if she did not win F1 Academy, her career would be over. She would come out because that was her second season, and she'd have nothing. So initiatives like these are really changing the game, and I hope that the same thing will kind of happen this year. Marta Garcia, who was the 2023 F1 Academy champion, has had to take a step back out of racing because she cannot fund it anymore. And she was a champion of F1 Academy and did not have the support to continue. She went on to FRECA, and that's as far as she has got. She did 1 year in FRECA. She was supported by the Iron Dames, and now no longer can race. I'm hoping that won't be the same case for Abby. Brianna, what are your thoughts about kind of the lack of funding within this sport, specifically aimed at women?
Yeah, I mean, we also hear this from the men as well, that getting money, finding the money can be really difficult. And we even see male drivers' careers ending. So if their careers are ending because they can't find the money, imagine how hard it is for not just take the female out of it. Like, they just haven't had as many chances as these men. And like there's less to point to say, like, look, I succeeded here. I did this. I overcame this. I won here. I was a champion of this. Like, and there's less of that for these women. I mean, I think it's just really sad. I think we also need to be realistic as well. Not every woman that wins F1 Academy is going to be the next Jamie Chadwick. I hate to say that, and that has nothing to do with them being female either. We see this in the male racing series as well. We see drivers come from Formula 2 into Formula 1 and done. Like, they just can't translate. And that is something we see throughout motorsports, whether you're male or female. So I do want to make sure, like, at least for me, I'm like, and I know these women say the same things. I've heard them in several different interviews saying, like, I want to be in a seat because I earned it, not because I have boobs and and I'm a woman, like, on my driver's license. Like, they're like, I want to earn it because I earned it, because they think I'm good enough to do this. And I know that's really what what F1 Academy is really working toward, is so these women are looked at as by the performances they're putting in and what they produce, and not a hire just because, well, it looks great for us, which I think is also a worry of a lot of these women. As much as they want chances, they don't just want them because they're a girl and it looks good on their PR. So yeah, I mean, it's tough and it's sad to see women have to give up. It's sad to see any motorsports person have to give up their career because of money, but it is a reality of this world. But I hope that F1 Academy will start to bridge that gap and more just give more opportunities to women to be seen and to be able to show what they can do, but also start to prepare them to get relationships with some of these brands. We see a lot of brands coming into F1 Academy, Puma, Charlotte Tilbury, Tommy Hilfiger. Like, they're developing relationships with these brands as well, and also developing just their networking pool, which could be great for them when they leave F1 Academy. Some of these brands might want to follow them and sponsor them in the future. So I think it's good in that way as well. But yeah, always sad to see, but not everyone's a champion. We all know it's hard to become one. So I'm glad Abby Pulling, though, is continue racing again, and I can't wait to see what she does there. I hope she kicks all the boys' butts, like blows them out of the water. I really hope that.
Agreed.
I think if anyone can do it, it is Abby. But I do have one final question for you both. Yasmin, I'm going to start with you. When do you think we will see a female F1 driver on the grid, but there for merit, not because of tokenism?
Oh, Brianna, do you want to answer this? It's a question that I kind of just have pop into my head here and there, like before I'm trying to sleep at night. I'm like, female F1 driver. Oh wait, no. When? I think we're a long way yet from getting a female on the grid. I think in a way, the rise of F1 Academy and the whole supporting women in motorsport, I think a lot of people, they say that, oh yeah, that'd be great, an F1 driver, a female F1 driver, but they don't really mean it. It's kind of like a trend. They'd be like, yeah, that female empowerment, but you know, when it actually comes to, oh, here's a woman that might actually do it and not be there on merit, suddenly everyone gets a bit quiet. And I think also letting the woman progress from F1 Academy. Like again, we were literally just talking about Marta Garcia, who just, she won and she didn't have anywhere really else to go or funding to go anywhere. And you were talking about Abby Pilling, like if she didn't have that contract with GB, then that would have been it. And I think this was what keeps happening. And I know it happens a lot within motorsport for men as well, but I think for women, like investors don't see a long-term investment. Like they don't see, oh, well, they're going to get the F1. If we keep supporting them, there's a chance that they might get the Formula One. I don't think investors see that. They just see, oh, well, I don't know, she might go to like another championship and that will really be it. So I think when we start changing how we view women in motorsport, and I think it's more really up to kind of sponsors and brands and Formula One as a whole. I would love Susie Wolf to just take over Formula One and just run it, and then she would definitely get some female drivers in there, not just on merit because they actually deserve it. But when I think we're like, honestly, I hate to say it, like another like 10 years, which sucks. It sucks. I would love to say in the next couple of years, but definitely not in like the next 5, which blows.
Yeah. I'm even gonna say longer than that. Yes, I'm gonna say it's gonna be like 15 years. And yeah, it is a bummer to say that, but it's also encouraging because I think if you would have asked us before F1 Academy was on the scene, we maybe would have said never. Like, at least now we're like, no, maybe within the next 10 to 20 years, we'll see a woman. And I'm not saying that because I don't think any of these women are talented, or there are any women out there that are talented that couldn't go into Formula One right now or Formula Two. I think it's more we're building the framework. We're at ground floor stages right now with getting women into motorsport and building the ladder that they can climb. so they can get to this point. And not just the ladder they can climb, but these women need time to develop the skills. They're starting on the back foot. They're not, some of them haven't started karting when they were 5 or 6 years old, like the Landos and the Charles and the Lewises of the world. They're starting when they're like 10, maybe. So we have some catching up to do, but it's very more of like a build it and they will come kind of thing. And right now we're at the, hey, everybody, come on over here stage. So I just think it's going to take time to build. It's going to take time to build, to search for this talent, to develop it. We know, like, to be an F1, you got to be one of, well, it'll be, 22 in the world, which is, the odds of that are nuts. It's crazy for any normal human. So I think, we're fighting against a lot, but we're just building. We're at the ground floor, and that's really exciting that we all get to be here at the ground floor. So 15, 20 years from now, you guys, when we're recording again, we'll just be like, oh my God, first woman in F1. If we're recording 15 or 20 years from now, I will be shocked. I really will.
No, we're gonna have like millions of like listeners and sponsors, and we're gonna be so rich off this podcast. So yeah.
That's not our goal. Our goal is to raise awareness for women in motorsport. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, maybe we'll be super famous and you'll be watching us record this live on a stage. Who knows?
Who knows what the future will bring? I wanted to ask you this because I was asked this in a job interview back in the end of 2023, and I said 10 to 15 years. And those people I did it over Zoom, so the people over Zoom who were interviewing me were very shocked, and they were people that worked on W Series. And I think they were like, okay, that's interesting take. And they asked me why. And I said, because we don't have the fundamentals to get there. And when we do have the fundamentals, they make these plans and they say, this is what's going to happen. And they follow through the first part of the plan. So they follow through with F1 Academy. But then they kind of don't stick to the second half of the plan, which is then getting them into a championship that's going to then help them progress even further. And we saw that with the start of F1 Academy. They said whoever won F1 Academy was then going to go to Formula 3. That was what they laid out in their original plans that were posted on their social media, on their website, back in the end of 2022 or the start of 2023 when they launched F1 Academy. And no one is yet to have done that jump progression from F1 Academy to Formula 3. So I think it's not going to happen yet, and I still believe that it is going to be 10 to 15 years. I think the fact that F1 is kind of being more a part of F1 Academy in terms of the team sponsoring has changed it a bit more, that I'm kind of leading more to like 10 to 12 rather than 15 plus. But there is still so much work to do. I think there's more of a chance of a female Formula E driver happening. There was 10 years ago with Simona Del Silvestro. But I think that if out of all of the championships, I know that F3 had Sophia Flores, but I think if we're looking at F1, F2 and Formula E, I think Formula E is probably going to be where we're going to next see a female driver in such like a high stakes environment. And that's only because they seem quite determined to do so with their introduction to the women's test, and they're getting more female drivers involved in their like general testing throughout the year and rookie practice sessions. So I think that that's probably the direction that women are going to start heading towards. I've heard Abby Pulling say in a few interviews that her eyes are now set on Formula E. I think if F1 don't back up their ideas, people are going to look elsewhere because they're just going to get fed up and bored. And Formula E is looking a lot more attainable and a lot more encouraging than F1 are. Yes, they are sponsoring these girls, but that's because a woman had to come in and tell them to. Susie Wolff went through the paddock and said, right, for next season, you are going to sponsor a girl of your choice. They wouldn't have done it if Susie hadn't have gone in that paddock and told them all to. So Formula E taking their own initiative, I think that's what's going to look a bit more desirable. So I stick with my word. I think it's still going to be at least 10 years, unfortunately. But things are looking optimistic. As we say around here, things are remaining optimistic. So I'm happy to be proven wrong. So we shall see. But that is all we have for today's episode. Thank you very much for tuning in to our first F1 Academy episode of the season. We are very excited for the season to begin, and we'll be catching up with you after China. Bye!
Hello, fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you, glad you came too.